Hey y'all, Remdino here, coming at you again from the Appalachian Trail Thru Hiker update and trail news. We got a ton of trail news for you this week, so buckle up, let's get right to it. Penelope Percival, she made it to Unicoi Gap, had a little incident where she lost her food bag. She got up in the morning and it was gone off of the bear cables. Doesn't know what happened to it, but in any case, folks gave her some food to get her through to Unicoi Gap. And then she was able to get into town. She said she had a great time in town, enjoyed that, and just enjoying the trail. So she's definitely making lemonade out of lemons. So appreciate that attitude, Penelope. Old Man and Abuelo, who is a new trail name for Tim Clary, and that is Spanish for grandfather. They are past Clingman's Dome on day 14. So that's awesome. Glad to hear those guys. Corner is in Hot Springs, and he says he'll be in Irwin the next few days. He said there was at least 40 hikers in town last night. So a lot of folks, a lot of hikers in a small town like that. I think the population is only about 25 when there's not hikers in town. Elizabeth's around Glasgow, and she said there has been 15 people at the Wilson Creek shelter last night. It was tent city, so this is a good indication of when you're hiking in the bubble. This is what it looks like around the shelters. And if you'll notice here, all these tents are not pitched on flat areas. So there's just so many flat areas that a lot of these shelter places have. So when you start getting this many tents, you're going to be wind up rolling out of it probably at night. But she is on the AT diet, and she has lost 20 pounds. And she's gone from hiking 4 miles 6 weeks ago when she started to 8 to 11 now. So that is awesome. I am just so proud of her, Elizabeth, and she's come so far, and that is just really neat to see people getting out on the trail, looking for the trail to help change them and go in the direction they want to go, and it actually doing that. And you can just, I passed her while I was hiking through Grayson Highlands, ran into her out there. It's nice to actually meet her on the trail, and now to see her and see her face just shining. Oh, it's just awesome. So congratulations to you, Elizabeth. Traveling Beat, he has made it to the Triple Crown. He sends in a video. Talk to us, Traveling Beat.
Hey, good morning. It's Traveling Beat from McAfee Knob in Virginia. One of the more exciting points in the state. One of the more exciting points on the whole trail, actually. Just had some sunrise up here. Just wanted to say hello to Ramdino and all the Ramdino viewers. Yeah, beautiful day out here.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. Also, he wanted to send around word that if you're going through Pearisburg, which everybody pretty much is, the all-you-can-eat Chinese restaurant, they are not serving in the restaurant due to COVID. It's takeout only, but the Mexican restaurant is, and he says it is great. And he also says that HB Outdoor Adventures was the only outfitter in town, and they have closed their brick and mortar store, so they are no longer there. Able to get fuel or anything else from them. He did say that Honey Bun, who was a 2019 AT thru hiker, he is doing fuel sales, and he'll deliver it to you wherever you're at in Pearisburg, and he's also shuttling folks around the Peters Mountain closure. And then Traveling Beats also says that Peters Mountain is still closed as of April 16th. And he mentioned that he feels that there's two distinct bubbles, and he's kind of in between those two. Well, I've kind of got some reasons why that may be. To begin with, the hikers are still stretched out, through hikers, in kind of a bubble all the way to Springer. So we still got people that are starting the through hike at Springer, and it is stretched out all the way up into really southern, the south central Virginia, which is the area that he's in there. So we still got folks that are stretched out in there. Some people get off for bad weather, like if it gets too cold or if it's going to be wet weather, people get off, and people that stay on may feel like they're, some of the only people out there, or that you know, there's not as many people. A lot of people have gotten off, and they have, but they just hadn't gotten off permanently. Flip-floppers are also starting to mingle in. That area is where flip-floppers may be starting. And then folks are getting back on that got off last year early due to COVID. So that's kind of why this is a weird year. It's kind of hard to pin down where the bubble is and what's going on, but those are kind of the things that I've come up with for why you may feel like that, you know, all of a sudden you're in the middle of a bubble, and then all of a sudden you're not in the middle of a bubble. So continuing on with folks, Tex is around Grayson Highlands. Subman and Suds, they are around the Pearisburg area. The Seb started Monday. He is to Troutville, and he says he was at a very full Stanimals there in Glasgow. And he says the trail maintainers have been out there in full force clearing down trees. She's the Ones in Pearisburg, says the weather is great, water is plentiful even without rain. Huck Was Here is in the Great Smoky Mountains, and he says he has been having such a wonderful ramble so far. Trail magic, wonderful views, amazing people. It just blows me away. Life is beautiful. Man, that is music to my ears. That's so great to hear people like that are out there just enjoying. And I'm sure most people are out there enjoying the trail, or else you'd probably be getting off sooner rather than later. But it is so good just to hear that enthusiasm from folks out there. Action Adventure or Nobo, and they are enjoying the night there at the Skyline Resort in the Shanties, and they are currently hiking with DFib. Ray Dog is starting on the trail at Atkins, Virginia. He had to get off because he had a sore hurting back, and he figures it was because his backpack was around 50 to 60 pounds. So he's going to get rid of some of that weight, regroup, and get back out there. Show has made it out of the Smokies, and he says he had no bear activity through the Smokies. Shoes, who was Scott Fulliser, and he has now got a trail name of Shoes, and the reason his trail name is because he is 100% barefoot hiker, and he is through the Smokies. So that's the only one I know we've got this year, and that is a rarity for sure. Skidmark and Outdoor Fresh, they are around the Hot Springs area. Taskmaster and Green Tea, they are through the Shanties. Blizzard started his flip-flop at Snickers Gap. Drifter and Sherper, they are in Central Virginia and should be coming into the Shanties very shortly. They put out some really good videos on hostels, so every time they stay in a hostel, they will do a video tour of kind of the hostel. So if you folks that are behind them, that is a really good tool to use to go see, you know, if you got a hostel that you're going to, what's it going to be like before you get there. And Cabs started the Amicalola Fall Approach Trail on March 23rd. He is now north of Hot Springs. He is a 55-plus hiker and says he's never hiked before, and he comes from Florida. So you can imagine somebody coming from Florida, it's a rude awakening when you hit those PUDs down in Georgia. But he says he is having an amazing time, and the trail has just been amazing. So if you're a little longer in the tooth, like some of us are, and just because you come from the flatland doesn't mean you can't get out there and love the trail. So that is what he's doing. And then Dirty Doss, who is also known as 3D, he'll be in Bland, Virginia today, and Pearisburg toward the first of the week, and he says he is the only hiker that he has seen today. So in his mind, the trail's really dispersing, but of course we know, we just talked about why that may be. Country Boy's been on the trail for 30 days, and he's coming off at Sam's Gap for a few zeros. But he says Hogman, who he was hiking with, left the trail. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But he is staying because he felt like after his last great adventure from 10 years ago that it was time to get back out for a great adventure. And that adventure he had 10 years ago was serving in a combat tour in Iraq. So thank you very much, Country Boy, for your being a veteran, for you serving a tour or multiple tours over there. Of course, I'm a veteran, but I served during the Cold War, so never knew what that type of adventure was like, but greatly appreciate what you've done for this country. Squid, Maverick, Andy Cap, they have made it to Damascus, but they had to stay in Abington, Virginia, which is a town nearby, because all the hostels were full. So keep that in mind. They even called one of the hostels, and when that said they had a place for them, but by the time they got there, that hostel was full. So just keep that in mind as you are hiking, particularly, you know, in the middle of the bubble like this. Jason is at Dix Creek Gap. Luscious, he is done with the Smokies. Ostrich is near the Fontana Dam. Whisper is through Delville, and that's not to be confused with our northern correspondent Whispers. And he says he has to say Virginia is stunning. Wrong Way is around the knock and says she has gotten her trail legs. Hillbilly restarted his 2020 hike at Amicalola Falls State Park. The Blazing Baker has hit the halfway mark up in Pennsylvania. So congratulations to her. And she also reports that the Dahlgreen Backpacker Campground Bathhouse in Maryland is open. So you may recall they closed it last year. I put that out in my video when I did a section hike through there, and they were closed up for renovations, but now they are open, and she says they utilized it. So that's great. Thanks for the report, Blazing Baker, and thank you, or congratulations rather, for hitting that halfway point. Just think about that now. She is halfway done. That means there are less miles in front of her and more miles behind her. So that is awesome. Runway has made it through the Rhone, and she camped on Little Hump. Stacy has made it to the Knock. Double Take and Colonel, they have made it to the Smokies, and they got into a scary situation in the Smokies. They had to stay at Siler Bald Shelter, a little short of how far they wanted to go. One, because Cosby Knob Shelter's closed, but also there was very high winds. He said it's around 50-mile-an-hour gust, and trees were coming down everywhere, so that would probably be the dead mans that are coming down from the big ice storms we had through there, and they got into a shelter to try to get out of that. And of course, shelters are not immune to dead man's coming through them as well, so they afford a little bit of protection, but a direct strike, maybe not so much. So just keep that in mind. If you see a big storm with particularly with high winds associated with it coming up, you need to get out of the woods. You don't want to be on a bald in the middle of a lightning storm. The best thing to do is get into town somewhere and get into a hospital. Brits are headed to Duncannon, and they sent us a video.
Hey Ramdino, this is Keith and Shelley. We started in Harpers Ferry, and we have hit 100 miles coming out of Bowling Springs, headed towards Duncannon.
Woohoo!
All right, so we hope everybody out there is having a good time hiking the trail. We are. We're learning a lot, and we're going to keep on pressing north. You have a good day, and thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brits. Crazy Quilt has made it to North Carolina. Possum, Ramble, Greasy, and Fro, they are closing in on Irwin. Funkster is getting ready to start the Smokies. Shaker has made it to Damascus. Aquaman, he made it through the Rhone and said that he ran into some snow flurries through the Rhone. So don't send all of your cold weather gear home just yet, folks. We still may have a few cold snaps, particularly at elevations. Not so much. He has made it past 1,200 miles. Congrats. Traveling Drifters, they are almost 1/3 done, so that's awesome. Fenway has made it to Beauty Spot. Mr. Rogers is through the Rhone. Susan Camphor Reed has made it to Damascus. The Hiking Hobbin and Okie are in North Carolina. Papa Groot and Walsey have made it past Grayson Highlands. Mike and Kathy have made it past 800 miles. Aspinock is in Waynesboro. Lila got her trail name of Sugar and has made it to Hot Springs. KK is somewhere around Fontana. Black Lotus has made it to Dix Creek Gap. And then a special request on my part, Kelly Joy Hayes had to have emergency surgery after getting on the trail for just a short time. She had some pains that were just overwhelming. She got off trail, went to the doctor, had to have emergency surgery. She's doing fine now. This is something that she actually put out on her Instagram account, so it's public knowledge. But she has requested prayer. She requested prayers through that Instagram account, and during that time, she did come through the surgery great, and she's going to get back on trail just as soon as she's able to. So glad to hear that. So send her your prayers or good vibes or whatever you're into. Send those her way. I'm sure she would appreciate that. And then Masochist, who is doing the Eastern Continental Trail, he left on December 29th from Key West and is going all the way up into Canada, which includes, of course, the Appalachian Trail. He is probably going to be hitting it. Doesn't look like he's going to be hitting it within the next couple of weeks, but he says that he has finished the Florida Trail, finished the Alabama Road Walk. He's currently 40 miles from the northern end of the Pinhoti, and then he's got 70 miles on the Benton McKay to get to Springer. So he may be just a few weeks before he gets on the AT. So we'll be updating him on a regular basis whenever he sends those in as soon as he hits the ATs. So if you weren't included in the update, then go ahead and send me your updates on Friday and Saturday. We'll be sure to include you. We want to include everybody that wants to be included, and particularly on Friday and Saturday, so that we have the most up-to-date information that you have. Send us bear reports anytime and any kind of trail news that you may have anytime, because I know there's other hikers out there that tune into this channel or to the podcast, and so they want to, this information is relevant to them. Folks that had to get off the trail, the A-team had to get off, and that was the team of Trail Light and Speed Bump. They had to get off for personal reasons, and they will not be returning this year, but they made it all the way through the Smokies. And then Farrell, who was our Bobo hiker, he's off the AT, and that's not because he's not hiking anymore. That's because he is jumping over to the CDT. He decided, or he had already planned for the AT just to be a training ground, adjustment period, and then as soon as the CDT got to be weather, he could go ahead and get all the way through with decent weather. He jumped over it. He doesn't know if he's coming back to the ATC. He may be doing that. He is no stranger to dual hikes. Back in 2019, he did a AT PCT dual hike for that year, and so an AT CDT is certainly not out of the question. So we'll see how he does on that. And then we mentioned Hogman, who was hiking with Country Boy. He is off trail, and that was because he squeezed all he needed to out of the trail in the period that he was on the trail. So he is done. And Gray Dog, he had to get off for multiple strains in his lower leg and his ankle and his foot. So the doctor has him off trail for at least 3 weeks. Jim Southern and Bonnie, they had to get off in Georgia due to injury, and Michelle from McCrone's Way channel had to get off due to an injury as well. So a lot of folks, of course, having these injuries and stuff, and that is not uncommon. Hopefully some of these folks can get back on. Just remember that it's better, the trail's always going to be there, and it's better to go home and heal up whatever you need to heal up, and then come back to the trail whenever it's your time, and not push it and get some type of permanent injury that doesn't allow you to come back to the trail. So, speaking of the trail and registrations, we've still got folks that are registering. Of course, Nobos have slimmed down, and really it's getting to be late in the season for registrations, but we had 78 hikers who register a hike from last week. And so Nobo, we are up to 2,857 Nobo hikers that have registered, and we're up to 186 flip-floppers as well as 186 Sobo hikers that have registered. So Nobo folks that are starting, that's going to start getting less and less each week, because of, you know, now it's starting to get a little late in the season to be trying to do a complete through hike all the way from Springer. And from here on out, we'll have more and more folks doing flip-flop, and of course when Baxter State Park opens up, we'll have the Sobos that are starting. Had a few new bear reports. These are not on the ATC website. They are so fresh. So Traveling Beach reported that he saw a bear rambling around Lambert Meadows Shelter, which is somewhere, I'm not sure, but it's right around the Triple Crown area. And so he reported that there. He also reported that to the ATC. And then Kuroki is around the Hot Springs area, and she reports that some friends of hers, Saint and Rose, had their bear bags stolen by a mama and 2 cubs from the tent site right above the Groundhog Creek shelter. So they ripped the tree to shreds in order to get to the strings, to the line that was holding the bear bags up. So they were not using the PCT method. They were using this the traditional method of throw your string around a limb and tie it off to a nearby tree. And of course the bears have learned that how to defeat that. And so they clawed the tree, broke one of them. It's not the first time it's happened at this tent site, because a lot of the litter that was around the ground was not theirs, but they had to run the bears off. It took them twice to get them off. So that's a little concerning, to have to keep running the bears off, and particularly since the bears have been there and done it before. That means they're getting acclimated to this site of being a place where they can get food. So keep that in mind when you're hanging your bags, and do not sleep with your bags. You need to hang them, and you need to hang them PCT style, because bears have figured out, some have figured out how to defeat that, but most don't know how to do it. So if they don't have a reason to come back to the tent site or the campsite or the shelter site, then they're less likely to get acclimated, less likely to have to be relocated, or put down, which is the worst case scenario. So don't be the person that killed that bear. And so we got some more trail news as usual. So the stairs at Amicalola Falls State Park, they are still not open all the way up. I have not determined yet exactly what caused it. I've got different reports. One of the reports is that the rocks washed out. Some of the support, the rocks got washed out. They were holding some of it up. And I've also heard a tree went down on some of it. So both those may be correct, or one or the other. It doesn't matter. The stairs are closed. That's a fact. And when you are working in a waterfall trying to rebuild stairs, that will take some time. So, but the stairs are in the falls are a huge draw. That is their big money maker down there. And so I'm sure they want to try to get it open sooner rather than later. And then there's a new hostel that's opened up from last year. So Stumbles and Texas have opened up the Stumble Inn up in Fort Royal, Virginia. They were through hikers from 2018, and I mentioned them last year. They were helping people for free with a place to stay, free rides and shuttles due to COVID, getting people off the trail. And so they have opened for business in earnest now. And so now you can go there and stay. And so they've got a pretty neat place there. I'll leave a link down below to there where you can go and check their place out. They are giving free shuttles from the pickups at NOBO Mile 972, which is Route 522, and then Mile 980, which is the Tucker's Lane at Manassas Gap on Route 55. And they are also in Guthooks, AWOL, and the White Blaze pages. So check those places out. Check out the links below and go and give them a shout out. And then the waysides and the lodges up in the Shanties, they should be open. All of them be open by April 23rd. There's some of them open right now, but by April 23rd, all should be open. Then I also found a new weather app I wasn't aware of, and that is atweather.org. That's all one word. I have been using the Appalachian Trail weather app itself, and it has been fine, although sometimes it's down because of the place it pulls its information from may be down, that particular reporting station. And but most of the time it is up and has been a valuable resource and will continue to be. But when that's down, I'll probably use the atweather.org site. It looks to also be a good site. It's also along the same lines as that. You know, you pick a state, you pick a trail, you pick a state, you pick a shelter, and it will tell you what the weather's going to be for the rest of the week at that shelter. What I typically do is when I'm going on a hike, I will look those up in whatever app I'm doing, and I will do a screenshot because I don't want to have to look it up while I'm out on the trail. May not have service in order to do that. So check that out. I have talked to the person who runs that, the webmaster, and he indicated that it does account for the elevation. So of course we know the higher elevation, the colder it gets. So that app, just like the Appalachian Trail weather app, both of those account for the elevation and also the temperature loss due to elevation. I've also heard and had tons of hikers reporting to me that they are getting their vaccinations, both the first one and the second one, up and down the trail. So in the south, there are a lot of folks that are able to get that, whether it be at a Walgreens or a Walmart or what have you. It seems to be that people, if they want to get the vaccination, they can. And then Whispers, our northern correspondent, says that up north that is happening as well. So if you are wanting to get your vaccine, then there seems to be ample opportunities on the trail to do that. We talked about the Peters Mountain, and it is still closed. According to the ATC, they're hoping it's going to open by the end of April, and that's as of 4/16, but right now it's still closed. Last week I reported that it was supposed to be open the first of this week, and that was information given to me from the power line company itself. They are using helicopters because of the remote section in there with the repairs, and so apparently they had some bad weather, wind, rain, things like that, and it being on the side of a mountain and over a mountain, all that can have bad winds that can affect helicopter operations. So they've probably been delayed by that. But and then also the trail maintainers are needing to get in there and do some clearing. And they indicated that there are still hikers that are going around the closure signs and the closure tape. So I would ask you, please don't do that. It causes damage to the trails. When you get to a blowdown, you have to go around it. Now you're causing additional trail erosion. And then also it's just plain dangerous for the helicopter around, loosening up the dead man's in there. And then it's also slowing down the work activities, because if they see hikers with helicopter operations going on, they're going to shut down what's going on until they get those hikers out of there and have full accountability. So don't go around the don't go through the closure. Just it'll only take hopefully just a few more weeks to get that taken care of, and then it'll be open for folks. And then I do want to thank the trail maintainers, those folks up there. I'm getting my information from the Outdoor Club of Virginia Tech, and they are doing line share work through that area. They have had several weekends previously where they've been out there trying to clear blowdowns, and they're going to do that in the continuing future to try to get rid of all that. That whole area was hit real bad by ice storms, same ones that caused the power lines damage up there. So and just in general, trail maintainers all up and down the trail, thank you for what you do. It is oftentimes a thankless task. And if you're hiking out there, take a moment to stop and thank those trail maintainers for what they're doing out there. I'll be coming out later in the week with a few changes for trail days that you might want to be aware of. It'll be a short video. Won't take long to watch that or listen to it as a podcast, but some things you might want to be aware of. Folks, that's all I got this week. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out here.